All right, good morning. Welcome to Studio Journal live stream. It is February 13th, 2022, Sunday morning at about 7:50. All right, I think I'm ready for this. So a couple weeks ago, my best friend's dad passed away. Big Rich, phenomenal individual, just an all-around great guy. Absolutely loved by his community, and he's one of the only real positive male influences I had growing up, and it's been a little, I don't know, I've been busy trying to keep with work and not focus on what it means to me personally. I mean, he wasn't my dad, so I can only imagine what Rich and his sisters are going through to lose such a great guy. He was taken by COVID. He fought the battle there for about a week, I guess. I mean, he had it longer, but he was trying to get medical help and was denied a couple times at the hospital entrances, and finally got in his lungs, and it was just a slow process for them to endure. But they're having the celebration of life here towards the end of the month, and as much as I wish I could make it, there's just no way with all the issues with travel and finances, and I'm 2,000 miles away. But if there's anywhere I could be on that day, that'd be it. God damn, I'm hardy. Okay. I can do this. But his passing has brought to light some things from my past. I mean, I'm in a different place now than I've been in a long time. I spent the last 4 months getting over a pretty gross illness, and it's affected a lot of things in my life. It's affected my ability to enjoy the things I love, to do the art that I've wanted to do, and I'm just trying to get back into it. I did Wonder Woman, got her completed last week. It took far too long to do one kit. Prior to that, I was going pretty hard on the Jedi and Sith, and those took months just to get to the stage they're at, and they're incomplete. I got to do detail work on them. I've got Robert's birthday present to work on still, and everything's kind of stymied. I mean, I've got so many projects in the works that I need to get back to and I want to work on. But like the studio sketchbook project, I mean, that's something that every day I think, I could work on it today, but what's going to knock me down next? And I kind of wanted to just kind of get some stuff off my chest, because the last couple weeks have been a lot more dredging up of the past, and I wanted to kind of tell my story about what got me to the point I'm at today, where I'm at today. Talk a little bit about Big Rich and how he showed me essentially what it was like to be a real dad, and a lot of the cues that I take from him and from Robert's dad, Robert Sr. I call them both Pops, and they've been there. They took me when I didn't have anywhere else to go. Thankfully, Pops is still with us, and I guess we'll just dive into it. I mean, as an only child, I was with my mom till I was 17, and she and my dad, depending on which story you hear, whether it's her story or his, I was either 2 or I was 4. Mom says I was 2, and Dad left her high and dry in Arkansas with nothing. Literally took half of everything, including the toothpaste. And I mean, it's an outlandish story, but it's not beyond the realm of believability, at least for something my mom would tell. Something my dad doesn't seem quite that petty, but I mean, it is what it is. And according to my dad, I was 4, and he caught her with another man. So the past is the past, and I gotta let that's their past. While it affected me, it's not my past. But regardless, Dad wasn't really around. I mean, I got to know my dad's family. I got to know my grandparents, my uncles. But Dad was a truck driver, and he moved back to Arkansas at some point in time when I was a kid. And the only time I ever really recall meeting him would have been sometime around the time, well, not meeting him per se, but did I have any memories of him, would have been around this sometime that he had a little gold Datsun Z, and I remember that car. I remember he had a black Camaro when he lived in San Francisco, and allegedly he lived next door to the guys who jammed with Green Day, and he would jam with Green Day a bit. And I've got no reason to disbelieve that story, but it was also a lot of drugs at that time, so I don't know if he has accurate recollections or not. Anyway, he lived on Rodeo Drive, an apartment complex, and I remember spending about a week there. I don't really remember a lot of it. But this story's not really about my dad, because it wasn't until about 17 that he tried to make a connection, and for whether or not it was because my mom, kind of fucked him over and kept him at bay when it came to child support and claiming he didn't pay or whatnot. And she told me he never wanted to have anything to do with me, but I found out later that was not the case. I found tons and tons of returned letters and packages and stuff in a storage of his, and he's still with us. He's still alive, but I mean, he's my dad, but he's not, much in the same way my mom is my mom, and I love my mom, but she's not anymore. She's over there, and that's where she can stay. But when Mom remarried, I was about 6, and I don't know or recall. I remember a guy named Red John and a guy named Buddy or something. It was Dave. Fuck, I don't remember their name. But anyway, some guys that were around before she remarried, and I don't recall them. We was my Uncle Joe, who again was, well, it was the first time I'm bringing this up, but was really the only first positive male role model I had in my life. But he was an uncle. He was in his 20s, and he was, out trying to live his life and working, and I assume partying, and but he was there, and we all lived together there in this little house on a little cul-de-sac in Oakdale. And I want to say it was Leslie Court. I want to think that's what it was called. It's been ages. My mom had a little yellow Pinto, Ford Pinto, and it was a piece of shit, but I think it was yellow. Maybe it was brown. I don't know. It was like 6. This is 34 years ago. But he would do things with me, he would play with me, and we'd go out and have fun, whatever. He used to take me along later on in life when I was a little older. We'd go out. He had a little red Triumph MG convertible, and it was or MG, not MG, Triumph. I think it was a TR4. It was a 60s or 70s. Anyway, this is a car he had restored and put together, and we would go chick cruising, is what we called it. And we'd turn the radio up, and we'd drive around town, and we'd find girls walking alongside the street, and he'd get their phone numbers, and it was a different world back then. You could do that kind of stuff, and you don't really get away with it now. And Richard knows my uncle quite well. But that wasn't until we moved back to Oakdale that all that stuff happened. So we'll rewind a little bit. I'm going to bounce around in time here, so if it gets confusing and whatnot, hopefully it all makes sense at some point. It still doesn't really make sense to me, but maybe you can piece it together. Anyway, Mom married this guy. I'm not even going to hold back. His name was Jeff. And at first, I think he was an okay guy. He was married at one point to some woman named Cassandra. They had a daughter. That was Ashley. She was my stepsister, and he didn't have custody and didn't get to see her very often, but I remember her. We all lived in the same town, so I'd see her from time to time. In high school, she dated another guy I knew named Bart. Bart was an alright guy, so I don't know. Maybe she's doing well. I don't know. But Jeff seemed okay in the beginning, and then he hurt himself diving into my grandpa's swimming pool and ruptured a disc. And then he was a prison guard, so when he went back to work next day off, whatever, when he was off his days off, he claimed that he fell off of a guard tower ladder and that he hurt his back there, and so he was on permanent disability. And he got retrained to be a gunsmith. And during that time, we moved to a little town called Susanville. And that's where Jeff showed who he really was. He wasn't a nice man. Jeff would hurt me, not in like a sexual way, but a physical way. I'd be walking down the hall and be passing each other, and he'd slam me into the wall, and I'd hit the ground, and he'd kick me, or hit me in the shin with a baseball bat while we were playing a game. And it escalated, and it got worse and worse. And I would tell my mom, but Mom was working 2 to 3 jobs at the time and doing however many lines of speed she needed to do to stay awake, while she supported this grown man child who, for whatever reason, felt that I was a punching bag or something. I don't know what but it was bad. And I remember I would come home from school and I'd set my backpack down and I'd go for my daily ass whooping for just existing, I guess. I remember he bought a Nintendo and I wasn't allowed to touch it. And I remember his Zelda game file somehow got deleted. Had nothing to do with me, but I did it, and I had to write 1,000 times that I will never lie again, that it was something that I had done and that I didn't own up to it. And I wasn't allowed to eat or sleep until that was done. I was confined to my room, my desk, and he would check in every so often and, just... and prior to that, before we ever went up, when we still lived in Oakdale, I went to take my hunter's exam so that I could go shooting with him and his friends, family bonding, be a kid. And I wasn't allowed to have my exam because he was one of the instructors. I wasn't allowed to have my license unless I could pass the exam with 100%. And I was 7-ish at the time. And that's a lot to put on a kid, that pressure. And I was in the 80s, 90s, the first couple times I took it, I missed 1 or 2 questions. He slipped, but he wouldn't tell me which ones I got wrong. So it took a long time before I finally got my hunting license. And after we moved to Susanville, we were on a hunting trip with a friend of his named Pat. Pat was a big man. He was probably closing in on 400 pounds. Just a big, bubbly guy, big teddy bear. He kind of knew what was going on, and he would kind of step in and, hey, knock it off, kind of thing, like calm down. But we were out shooting, and we were shooting rabbits, and had a stray bullet or a ricochet from a bullet come back, and it grazed Pat's cheek. And I remember Jeff ripping the gun out of my hand and stock whipping me with it in the face. And that was the last time I went hunting. It was the last time I wanted anything to do with a gun. But some time later, 8 or 9, I'm in my room, and it's where I lived. It's like a prisoner. I guess maybe that was his prison guard mentality coming back. I don't know. But I'd come home from school and I'd go to my room, and I'm in there, and he comes in and he just says, "Run." And there wasn't anywhere to go. He's standing at the door. So I tried to go to the furthest corner of the room or something. I was like, I don't know where to go. And he pulled out his service revolver, Smith & Wesson 357, black handle, stainless. And he had riot control bullets, and he shot me in the back. I hit 3 times. One of the bullets hit my pillow. And put a hole in the pillow, which my mom blamed me for, because I must have done something, and I couldn't tell her. And, that was... I don't really talk about this, but... I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And, Um, Another time, the guy was he was a bigot. He was a racist. He was an asshole. He was a redneck. He used to use the N word, obviously. And where we were, there weren't a lot of black people. It was not a black community. It was a very white community, and there were a few black kids in the school. And I remember coming home one time on the bus, and I don't know the girl's name. There was three girls in the back, and they were listening to some Salt and Pepper. And pardon me for using this expression now. I know it's not acceptable in these terms, but to give the highlight of the story and what I was told and led to believe as a child, the term that applied to rap and R&B, soul music like that was given nigger noise. And I didn't know it anything else, and I was 8 or 9 years old. I was in 4th grade, and the girls were singing along, and I kind of gave them a look because it was not something I'd heard really. I'd heard of it, it was what it was called, and the girl said, "What's the matter? Ain't you ever heard of Salt and Pepper?" And I said, "No, I don't listen to," air quotes that again. And she came up and beat my ass right on the bus, and the bus driver let her, and I mean, I deserved it. But I didn't know any better, right? So when I got home, and I had a black eye, and my face was all puffed up, and it wasn't that long of a walk, maybe a quarter mile home, but I knew that what I just got wasn't anything compared to what I was about to get. And so when I got home, I got an ass beaten for getting my ass beat by a girl, and it didn't end till a long time. I mean, I was 11, I think, maybe 12 when we moved back to Oakdale. And it didn't end until he was choking me out and I was turning purple. My mom walked in the door and saw me in his arms going limp, and she finally believed me, and we got the hell out of there, and thankfully, we did. Moved back to Oakdale, and he tried to get back with her, and she wouldn't have it, which is, thankfully she made the right call there. Moved back in with my uncle, and that was about time we started chick cruising, and I got to be friends with Rich again. I had known Rich in 2nd grade before we moved to Susanville, and again, timelines aren't going to match up here. Anyway, whatever. So I reconnected with Rich, and we got to be good friends, and we started hanging out. I started having sleepovers, and that's when I met Big Rich, essentially. And just a great guy, he never really raised his voice around me, around Rich. He never laid a hand on me. I mean, he'd be stern if there was something you were doing wrong. He'd come in and say, "Hey, you need to knock it off. Don't do that." He wasn't a man of many words. He'd go to work, he'd come home, and he did his best to raise his family. Betsy and Bobby, they were a little older, so I didn't see them around much. So I don't know what their relationship was like growing up as kids. I know Rich was a strict man, but he was an honest man. He was a good man, and certainly unlike any man I'd ever really known. He's always owned a Harley as long as I've known him. Back when I first met him, it was a maroon and white police special that he'd inherited from his dad, who was a cop. And Rich did his service. He was former military. He was in the Army. I'm pretty sure he was a Nom. I'm not 100%. I mean, we never really talked about his military career. But when I moved away to South Carolina and came back and I had nowhere else to go, he, let me stay in a RV on the side of the house until it got cold, and then brought me into the house, and I stayed in the house for a few months so I got on my feet. And he was a fair man, just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful individual. Taught me how to mend fences, how to split wood, how to make a proper fire. Treated me like one of his own. a couple years ago, Rich reached out to me and he asked me to help him design some tattoos because it's one of the things I do as an artist. I've done some tattoo commissions, I've done some tattoo work, and I've designed him a couple of Harley Davidson, empty Harley Davidson logo with a cross around it and an eagle, and he got that on one arm, and the other arm he wanted a cross for when he got saved. He went through bad divorce. He and his wife, after 35 years, Richard's mom, they went their separate ways. He wasn't the best husband toward the end there. It wasn't because he was a bad person. He just was so caught up in work and the stress in life that he neglected some of the things that really mattered. It's kind of a lesson to learn there too. You talk about that, and don't let the little things go. Keep in mind what's important. Keep your eye focused on those things. It's a lesson I could take away from that. But he wore those with pride, and I'll never forget when he posted about it on Facebook and said, got new tattoos, some fresh ink from my son. And I always felt like one of the family. So, yeah, a little bit of a stark contrast. And Robert's dad, same kind of guy, come home from work and spend some time with his family, and a little bit more balanced, I think, when it came to the work and home life. But again, an individual that take me out shooting out at the range, and got me back into knowing it was okay to be around guns. And Robert, Richard, and I'd go out to the range ourselves, and we'd go shooting, plunking, we call it. And I remember one time we were shooting targets, and we had this steel pole that they had there. You could hang targets from, and didn't know at the time it was full of wasps, and we hung our targets and everything, and wasps were flying around. You just kind of ignore them, whatever. We started shooting at the target, and wasps come out, and I got stung all over the face. They got my lip and swelled up real bad. And, we came home, and Pops gave me ice, put on it. And, you okay? You need to go to the hospital, that kind of stuff. And we were one time we're at the range, and it's me and Rich and Robert, and just three of us, and up pulls this Bronco Blazer thing, and Jeff gets up, and I'm 19, 20 years old, 20, maybe 21 even, and I got a .22 rifle in my hand, and we're just plunking down range, and I see Jeff, and hi, good morning, how are you? What's up? Yeah, alright, we'll go have some breakfast. I'll work on those later. Yeah, I'll work on them later. So we're shooting, and hi Shade, I see you pop in chat there. And I see Jeff, and immediately everything came back in that moment, and I looked at Robert and I said, take this from me right now. And Robert grabbed a gun, no questions asked. It wasn't cleared. I was still in the middle of firing, but he took her, and I went for a walk, and I came up to him. When I came back, I walked up to Jeff, and I looked him in the eye and I said, I gotta thank you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be who I am today. You put me through hell, and there's nothing this world can do to me that will ever make me hurt the way you did. And I have no fear of anything anymore. There's nothing you can do to me. And I walked away from that moment feeling whatever, as if I had overcome the greatest challenge in my life. Because I wanted to shoot him. I wanted to kill him. And I didn't. Instead, I thanked the man. Like, what kind of fucked up person do you gotta be? But in that moment, the honesty came out. Like, that's the truth of it. What I went through. No one can take that away. No one can make it better. And I'll carry it. But no one can hurt me like that again either. So, if you're...
Jeez, the dang sun down here?
Yeah. It's alright, I'm streaming.
What? Just, what?
Hey, I won't.
Good. What's streaming?
Just having a talk. Getting through some stuff.
What's up?
You can watch it later.
No, that's not fair. I can't come down to my husband crying and I don't know why.
Just trying to put some positivity into the world.
Yeah.
Sure. Alright. I love you. As you can see, life does get better. So if you're out there and you've been through something, and maybe you've gone through worse, maybe you're a victim of rape or molestation. You had a drunk parent who used to do the same to you. First of all, don't stay silent. Do something about it. Say something. If that's something I could go back and do, if I could somehow manage to convince my mom sooner that things were different, if she would hear me, if I could convince anyone, instead of living in the fear that I wouldn't be here tomorrow if I, raised my voice. Do it. Because once it ends, once the nightmare is over, you'll carry that. You'll have it the rest of your life. And you got to make choices at that point. You can let it stay and fester. And in my teenage years, I did a lot of stupid shit. I won't go into details. I mean, I was violent. I was angry. And I had to overcome that. And I did. And I got through it. And I found a love for anime. And I got... always liked to doodle as a kid. And I got better and into my art more. And I became a bit of a driving force. And, people like Rich and Robert and their parents, while it wasn't their place to encourage that kind of stuff in me, it was welcome to see that somebody took an interest in it and could, oh, that's really cool, it's a neat drawing, or what did you do today? Just that friendly bit of light into your life, and grab that, hold on to it, take it with you, carry it, surround yourself with better people, try to find people who can lift you up, and try to be more like them. And if I turn out to be half the man Big Rich was, then I'll have done some good. I'm back to work full time now, so things should pick up a little around here. Last couple years have been gross for everybody. COVID's really kind of fucked things up, but we're all doing the best we can, I think, as a society, as people. You gotta find a way to lift yourself out of the rut that you're in and move on, and I think that's what I'm doing now. This is for me to get it all out there, get it over with, and just let somebody know, hey, you're not alone. You know, I'm 40 now. It's been, half a lifetime since the worst part of my life was over. But, I got 2 kids. Love them to death. Shade, Sarah. Shade's in chat. Hi, Shade. Sarah was down here. Give me a hug. I got a lovely wife. And I got a studio. I got a lot to be thankful for. So, just keep going. Don't try to end it early. Don't give up. No matter how bad things are, or how they seem, or what you've been through. Just, there's others out there like you. And, you're gonna be okay. And that's it. Welcome to my TED Talk. I'm gonna be back later. I'm gonna do a little Instagram live feed for my studio. I'm gonna showcase some model kits and stuff. But I'm gonna go kind of calm down first and try to get back into a good headspace. But I've been wanting to reach out for a few days now and say something, because I think there's others out there who need to hear this. Rich, thanks, Bobs. Gonna be missed. And to Bobby, Rich, and Betsy, I love you guys. Thanks for always being family to me.